I'd like to call the October 19th Board of Adjustment meeting to order. Hearings before the Board of Adjustment are quasi-judicial in nature. Decisions of the board are based on a record of these proceedings. To grant a variance requires a concurrent vote of 4/5 of the members of the board. To reverse or modify the determination of an administrative official requires a simple majority. Evidence submitted to the board for review becomes part of the record. Appeals of board decisions are to Superior Court and are based on the record. Appeals must be filed within 30 days of the date of the filing of the board's order in the Planning Division. A hearing before the board is conducted in accordance with its rules of procedure. Those who want to testify in a case are sworn as witnesses. The chairperson recognizes those who want to testify or their attorneys for presentation of evidence during the hearing. To ensure that all testimony is properly recorded, please come forward to address the board, state your name and address, and speak clearly. We'll swear in anyone that wishes to speak today.
All right, I'll ask that all staff, applicants, and members of the public who may speak today, if they'll stand and raise your right hand. All right, do you swear that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you.
Thank you. First order of business is approval of the minutes. Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Do we have a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. We have a couple of cases that have requested continuance. The first one is 6450 Shinwood Road.
Yes, sir. The applicant has requested a continuance to the January 18th, 2024 meeting to allow their engineer more time to develop drawings.
Okay, I'd like to propose a motion to continue item 2, 6450 Shinwood Road, to the January 20th meeting.
January the 18th.
I'm sorry, January 18th meeting.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Second one is 1618 Dawson Street.
Yes, sir. The applicant has requested to continue that item to the November 16th meeting in hopes for a full complement of the board.
Okay, I'd like to propose a motion to continue item 4, 1618 Dawson Street, to the November 16th meeting.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. There was a potential continuance of Azalea Drive.
Yes, sir. And we can discuss the issue with Azalea Drive is that the case summary prepared by city staff, by me, listed one of the parties as an attorney in town, Mr. Robert Collins, and several of you had a conflict with that person, but that was just on the application in error. The applicant is also the owner. That is Robert and Elizabeth Carroll, and Mr. Carroll is here today representing himself.
Are there any board members that would need to recuse themselves from item number 3, 1608 Azalea Drive? Okay, thank you. First item before the board today is 302 Inglewood Drive.
Thank you, Chairman, members of the board. This item is an appeal of the zoning administrator's determination that a fence at 302 Inglewood Drive is not in violation of city code. One of the neighboring property owners located at 305 Brenda Drive appealed that determination because the fencing is woven wire fencing, which she believes is in violation of city code. It does not exceed 8 feet in height. On March 13th, 2023, Officer Coates inspected the property, confirmed that the fence was initially in violation because there were exposed ends, but upon re-inspection of that property on April 14th, well, it had not been rectified at that point, but later that month it was, and the neighboring property owner called city staff to request information on why it was in compliance. It was because the neighbor had put PVC on the top of the fence for covering the exposed ends. On July 31st, the zoning administrator issued a determination letter stating that that fence was in compliance now, and that letter was appealed to the city clerk on July 31st, 2023. This matter was initially set for hearing on September 21st, but was continued due to an error in advertising the case. I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have of city staff. The applicant, the neighboring property owner at 305 Brenda Drive, is also present and I believe would like to make a presentation to you. And I'd like to offer this case summary and all of the attachments into the record. I'll just go through the attachments briefly. This is the original subdivision plat, 1963. I went out this morning, took pictures of the fence. You can see the lower section of the fence is traditional chain link. The upper section is a smaller woven wire, like a chicken wire fence. But there are no visible exposed ends to the fence. This is the same fence viewed from 305 Brenda Drive, where portions of it were covered with PVC out of an abundance of caution. And the wooden fence belongs to Ms. Viecto at 305 Brenda Drive. It's behind that the subject fence is located. So happy to answer any questions,
Thank
and
you.
the applicant is also present.
Any questions for staff?
I have a question. In our packet, the ordinance language, no open wire fence of a type that could inflict injury from casual contact. Is that the standard at which we're looking at this?
Yes, sir. That's
Okay.
verbatim code.
Thanks.
Examples of that type of fencing would be barbed wire fencing and razor wire fencing, that sort of thing.
Any additional questions for staff? Thank you.
Thank you.
Is the applicant here?
My appeal was scheduled,
If you would please state your name and
I'm
address.
Joyce Vietto at 305 Brenda Drive.
Thank you.
My appeal was scheduled.
Ma'am, could you put the microphone closer to you? Thank you.
I don't like to speak in microphones. My appeal was scheduled to be heard on September the 21st. I received a phone call from Catherine Thurston on September the 20th at 8:35 a.m. stating that I had entered the wrong address on my appeal form and my appeal would need to be delayed. I subsequently telephoned the city clerk, and she stated she would have someone call me. Melissa Huffman, assistant city attorney, called and corrected the appeal application by verbal confirmation. That's attachment 34 of that small packet of information. I found my notes, attachment 30A and 30B, on October the 10th after going through numerous files in my office. My notes show that the information for completion of my appeal form was provided by zoning on July 27th. I was given incorrect information from the zoning staff. The first page of my appeal of determination request item 4 shows subject property 302 Englewood Drive, not my address at 305 Brenda Drive. The attachments photographs 1 through 25, that's a large packet, that was part of my appeal, was not included in the published agenda. I'm providing those attachments and have added 3 additional photos showing the rig fencing with encroachment vines, shrubs, and trees, and one showing there was only 52 inches of exposed chicken wire that should have been, it could have been reversed easily. One showing the 52 inches of chicken wire that could have been reversed to prevent injury. I requested the 4 additional photos, a memo for record dated August 3rd, which is attachment 35, September the 20th, attachment 32, and October 14th, attachment 30 be added to my appeal file. Also, the email from the Assistant City Attorney, attachment 34, an application acceptance policy printed on July 27th. And I was going to give you the handouts at that point, but she's handed them out for me. There are several inaccurate statements in the under analysis and research and attachments to 302 Englewood Drive appeal agenda. Item 2, on February the 10th, I called the zoning office and filed a complaint that owners of 302 Englewood Drive had installed fencing above a 4-foot chain link fence wire. Materials used were several heights and colors, including 2 different types of wiring. One type was chicken wire. I did not mention open wire fencing of any type that could inflict injury from casual contact. I'm sorry, I should have brought a bottle of water. The zoning office was unresponsive for 30 days. On March 13th, I finally received a call from Philip Coates. We scheduled an appointment to meet in my property at 2 p.m. When he arrived, I pointed out the type of fencing included chicken wire and other materials used that were different heights and colors. I stated the fence was not constructed properly by accepted fence construction methods. He stated that the fence must only be sturdy and not subject to injury. I pointed out the 52 inches. Oh, thank you. I pointed out the 52 inches of fencing that could inflict injury from casual contact. Please see attachment 7, dated February 10th, attachment 8, dated February 28th, and attachment 9, dated February 27th, showing that the fencing was not sturdy on those dates. In fact, it was leaning over the property line. I had to bend over to rake the leaves out of my shrub bed adjacent to the fence. It was leaning. Attachment 10, dated April 14th, shows the 52 inches of chicken wire that could inflict injury. On March 27th at 1:30 p.m., I called Philip Coast and left a message. On March 28th at 2:58 p.m., he returned my call. I asked what the owner would be required to do to bring the chicken wire fencing up to date. He again stated that the fence must be sturdy and not subject to injury. He stated that tenants had 30 days from receipt of a letter from zoning to bring fencing up to code. I requested that Philip Coates meet with me when he re-inspected the fencing. Philip Coates did not schedule an appointment to meet with me on April 14th and did not schedule an appointment to come back in my yard to re-inspect. He did come back on April 14th. On April 14th, while he was on my property, he stated that he had met with the tenants last week and that the tenants had a woman to interpret who spoke English. He also stated the tenants had until the end of the week, which was Friday, May 5th, to bring the fencing up to code. It was shortly after that meeting that the tenants began installing the white PVC pipe and the black zip ties to make the rigged fencing sturdy and not subject to injury. That's attachments 11 and 12. The rigged fencing and PVC pipe with black ties can only be seen from my side of the property due to shrubs, trees, vegetations, and vines over 6 feet. It cannot be seen from the property at 302 Englewood Drive, attachments 26 through 28. On June 2nd at 9 p.m., Philip Coates was back in my yard without an appointment. He should have been inspecting the property at 302 Englewood from that address, not coming onto my property. He was on my property several other times without an appointment. I do not know how many times he was on my property without an appointment, but I do know he did not have carte blanche to enter my property and backyard at any time he wished. Item 8, July 30th. I did not meet with the city staff on or about July 31st to discuss the modifications to the fence. I went to the zoning office at 9 a.m. as required by application acceptance policy attachment 38 to file an appeal. I did not discuss the content of my appeal with Catherine Thurston or any member of the staff. My memo for record dated August the 3rd documents from written notes my experience with Catherine Thurston on July 31 when filing my appeal. Item 9, the zoning determination letter was written on July 31st while I waited in the zoning office, as stated in my memo for record dated August 3rd. Item 9, my appeal was filed on August 31st with the city clerk. Under attachments to my appeal, page 4, attachment 1C, applicant's letter to Mrs. Solis, no date. The date on the letter is November the 12th, 2020, as shown on the attachment. Attachment 1H, applicant memo to self was dated 5/1/23, not 2/21/23. Attachments or photos 1 through 25 that were a part of my appeal were not included. The information presented in my memo for record documents the errors made by the zoning staff. Apparently, the intent of the rig fencing was to prevent the two pit bulls, attachment 6, dated March 6, from jumping the 4-foot chain link fence at 302 Englewood Drive, and my 5-foot wood fence. Please consider all the information in my appeal with attachments and additional photos and memos for record when making your decision. The information in my appeal outlines why I believe the rig fencing was not needed. As stated in my appeal, I purchased my property in July 1966. I'm very concerned about depreciation of my property when such a detrimental situation exists adjacent to my property. I request that all materials used for the rig fencing at 302 Englewood Drive adjacent to my property be removed and the appearance of the fencing adjacent to my property be restored to the appearance before the fencing extension was added. There are numerous acceptable methods used when installing fencing. The rig fencing at 302 Englewood Drive was not installed by any available method that I could find on the internet and by discussing with individuals who install fencing. Phillips Code stated on April 14th that the property was tenant occupied. Excuse me. This is allergies. Phillips Code stated on April 14th that the property was tenant occupied. Beginning at the end of September, the tenants appeared to be moving out. Most of the debris has been removed from the front yard, and the numerous vehicles are no longer in the yard in the evening hours and on weekends, and there are no inside lights during evening hours. The backyard no longer gives the appearance of a landfill, but still has debris. The pretense that the fence was needed to prevent pit bulls from jumping the fence is no longer applicable. I would like to add, and this is my personal opinion, the city of Wilmington's zoning ordinance is very inadequate for fencing. I think the zoning ordinance should be rewritten to assure that fencing where the new changes or additions that are approved will not adversely alter the appearance or devalue the property of other property owners. In my opinion, the zoning ordinance gives free latitude for the staff to make any decision they wish to make. That is unfair and does not represent all of the citizens of the city of Wilmington. In my opinion, the staff can take the easy way out, and the affected property owner is left with an undesirable or detrimental situation. The only choice a property owner has is to accept the decision by the city of Wilmington staff or spend endless hours documenting and appealing the decisions. We pay taxes and deserve better service from employees of the city of Wilmington. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for the applicant at this time?
I got one real quick. So the fence is on your neighbor's property?
Pardon?
The fence in question is on your neighbor's property.
I didn't understand you.
The fence is not your fence.
No, that PVC, I have the wood fence. he put the extension and the PVC pipe. There was only 52 inches that could injure someone. And if you look on that first photo of the second pack of papers I gave you, it shows that that was not raw fencing below. It could have easily been turned around just 52 inches.
But it's in his yard and not yours.
It's on, over his,
Okay.
Any additional questions for the applicant? Thank you. Is there anyone else here that wishes to speak in regard to this case? Now we'll open the evidentiary hearing, see if there is anyone. Seeing no one, we'll close the evidentiary hearing. Anything additional from the city?
Nope, just happy to answer any questions you may have.
Okay, thank you. Open it up for board discussion.
Ms. Thurston, I do have a question. When was it found to be compliant with the city ordinance? What date was that?
The zoning determination letter that formally stated that it was in compliance was written July 31st, 2023. There was correspondence included in your packet, some emails back and forth stating that staff did not believe that the fence was in violation any longer prior to that.
Okay, thank you.
Am I clear that the tenants of the property have moved out? Is that right?
yes. I mean, there's no one, there are no lights on. And they're moving the junk out.
You know, I went by the property for last month's meeting, and the fence is not attractive, but that's, you know, not really what we're here to discuss. There was a significant amount of debris in the driveway, which when I went by last week has been reduced some, and the pictures that Catherine showed us, or Ms. Thurston showed just a few minutes ago, show that the trash has been reduced a little bit further. Again, I think this is an unfortunate situation, but we can't really, in my opinion, make a determination on appearance. If it's in compliance, that's kind of a yes or no, black and white decision, unfortunately. And you know, if it is in compliance, then I don't know if there's anything we can do.
I agree.
So would the appropriate motion be a denial of the appeal?
To uphold the zoning administrator's determination that the fence is in compliance.
I make a motion that we uphold the zoning administrator's decision that the fence is in compliance.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Zoning administrator's finding is upheld. Thank you. Item 3 is 1608 Azalea Drive.
Thank you, Chairman, members of the board. As stated previously, in considering whether or not this item was going to have a full complement of the board, the applicant listed in your case summary should be Robert B. and Elizabeth Carroll. They are also the owners of the property on record. This is an aerial of the subject property. It's zoned R15, and it currently contains a 2,925 square foot single-family residence, according to New Hanover County tax records. Within the R15 zoning district, the following setbacks are required for a principal dwelling: 20 feet in the front, 10 feet on the side, and 25 in the rear. According to this site plan, the existing house has a front yard setback of approximately 25 feet, so it would be in compliance with city code. The applicant has proposed to construct a garage on the front of the house, and the new setback would be approximately 10 feet. We were provided with an updated survey yesterday, and a paper copy of that was given to you, I believe. Oh, Ms. Horner is going to give you a copy of that now. It shows that the proposed garage would be approximately 10 feet from the front property line, so the request for a variance would be 10 feet. And this matter was set for hearing before the board today, October 19th, 2023. I'll give you some time to look at the supplemented case material, but I'd like to enter case summary and attachments into the record, and Mr. Carroll is also here to address the board.
Has everyone had an opportunity to review the supplemental materials? The applicant like to come forward?
My name's Robbie Carroll. I'm the property owner with my wife Liz Carroll at 69 Azalea Drive. Thanks for your time today and your service. Catherine pretty much summed it up. We have an existing property where we're looking to do a renovation, and currently that's the only spot to put a garage on the front of the house. Like Catherine said, you need 20 feet from the front lawn line, which is actually, in this case, on our property, Azalea is a dead-end road. It's about 20 feet wide, that's it, and it goes 23 feet into the yard. So essentially, when the architect put the garage on the property, it was 10 feet from that setback, but actually the edge of the garage is 33 feet from the edge of the road, as far as that goes. But I don't know if you have any questions. Sorry about getting that to you last minute, but I got that survey last night. This property was surveyed a few years ago when we did a lot reconfiguration, so that's a up-to-date survey, and he put the actual garage on there so you can see it. It's actually 9.9 feet that we need, but based on roof overhang, one of those reports will say, if you do the math, 9.9, but we're just asking for 10, just to be safe. And we positioned it, aesthetically. The garage doors are facing away from the road. We looked at all different options, but this was the one place where we could, put a garage attached to the house for, safety of the family and for the cars.
There are
Tyler?
trees in the backyard, right?
There are trees in the backyard, yes. And actually, yes, so this is great, because here's a picture of it here. So basically, the garage would go there in front of that, the car in the middle.
Mr. Carroll, they can't see that because it wasn't part of the record. We haven't pulled it up, but if you wanted them to be able to see that, Ms. Bradshaw has it available for them to view as well.
I mean, I would think it'd be great to kind of see a picture of the actual property if you haven't seen it. So if you look at that on the right side, basically it goes into the fourth boxwood on the right. That would be the edge of the garage, so you can see it's not like bumped up It's just, that's a very large encroachment into the front yard. It's 23 feet from the edge of the road. We didn't really anticipate this when she was looking at it, but we saw it, so we wanted to come in front of the board. And happy to take any questions.
So the side, you're in compliance on the side setbacks, we're just looking for the front setback?
Yes, sir.
Is that correct?
This would just be, the front would need an extra 10 feet for the edge of the garage facing the street. And if it matters, I have talked to all the neighbors. There's about 6 houses on that street. Nobody opposes or asks any
And
questions.
the street curves, correct? So it's not perfectly linear where everything is along a line?
It is actually, Azalea is completely linear and dead ends. So there's actually one house, if you're looking at this, to the right of my house, and then that's it. And then the person across the street, there are actually 3 houses there, so there are about 7 houses on the street. But when you pull off Highland, Azalea dead ends. I think at one time, potentially, that was going to connect to Oleander, but now that's been shut off, and that lot at the end is owned by the neighbor across the street from me as well. Well, there's a little curve to it, I guess, if that was your question, Tyler.
Yeah, well, it's coming off of Highland, that the house on the end sticks out a little bit farther. It's not.
Yeah,
in a
it comes
traditional-
in like that, yes.
Right, in a traditional subdivision where everything is set back kind of along a line, this is,
Right, yeah,
in
yes.
my opinion, somewhat different.
That's correct.
You've got 33 feet from the corner of the garage to the Azalea Drive pavement, is that
To
correct?
the edge of the road. Yes, sir.
And I think that since it's not likely to connect to Oleander anymore, that the likelihood of them using that as right-of-way and widening that street is highly unlikely.
That the lot there at the end is actually privately owned now, so I don't know if they could technically do that, but.
Any further questions for the applicant?
Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to open the evidentiary hearing, see if there's anyone here to bring additional information that's pertinent to the case. All right, any additional from the city?
Nothing more from the city, thank you.
Okay, I'll close the evidentiary hearing and open for board discussion.
Guess my only concern is this going to set precedents for others in the neighborhood? And how can we go through the 4 findings of fact to make sure that it falls within those guidelines?
I mean, if we review the 4 findings, the unnecessary hardship would result in strict application of the ordinance. You know, the unnecessary hardship, I guess, would be construction of the garage. Hardship results in conditions that are peculiar to the property. So smaller lot size from the house to the road. Did not result from actions taken by the applicant, and requested variance is consistent with the spirit, purpose, and intent of the ordinance. The one I think that it's difficult to meet is 1. It's an unnecessary hardship. It's more of a convenience than a hardship, an inconvenience.
With the way that, what I was trying to get at earlier, that in these older established neighborhoods that we have in the city, it's not necessarily pertinent to this case, but in a lot of other jurisdictions, that people are tearing down and building back. And then the public policy discussion turns into that and building a larger structure. This, with the curve of the street off of Highland and how some of the houses are a little bit closer to the road in certain locations, and also I think it's peculiar in that I believe there's a golf course behind it and some trees behind it, and the road dead ends, Azalea dead ends. You know, I'm in support of the variance.
Well, and we
I think
do
it
have,
meets the findings of
we
fact.
do have 33 feet from the corner of the garage to the edge of the pavement.
So, yeah, I think 10 feet is a lot for a variance, but I think in light of the fact that there's that extra right-of-way that's likely never going to be right-of-way.
Right, it's 33 feet that in all likelihood will never be developed because it's established, and the end of the road is privately owned now.
Correct.
Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion that we grant the variance for the required front yard setback for a garage addition.
I can second.
Motion and a second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. And the next item before the board is 4025 Water Sale Drive.
It's me again. This final variance request is for a variance to a lot in the Easton Mason subdivision, Phase 2, which was recorded in the New Hanover County Registry at Map Book 73, pages 49 and 50. This subdivision is zoned R15, which traditionally would require 15,000 square feet of lot area for a new lot, but it's part of a cluster subdivision, which allows smaller lot areas than traditional R15 developments in exchange for the provision of open space. Pursuant to City Code Section 18436.3, within cluster developments, there's a requirement, rather than having setbacks, that buildings be at least 10 feet from one another. On May 5th, 2023, a permit was issued for the construction of a new dwelling on Lot 127, which is adjacent to the subject property, with setbacks as shown in your case summary. The 5.3 setback for the main house is the one that is in conflict today with Lot 128. 128 was issued a permit on June 8th, 2023 for a new dwelling and attached garage, and those setbacks are also shown in your case summary. We realized on August 30th that there was a conflict, that they wouldn't be able to meet the 10-foot requirement between structures, and we notified the applicant that day. On September 5th, the applicant submitted a request for a 1.2-foot variance to the minimum separation to allow the building under construction to be only 8.8 feet from the structure at 4021 Water Cell Drive, which was approved by city staff as well. I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have for the city. And I believe that the applicant is also present if you have any questions for him.
When I went out there, the properties are framed in. Were they, according to the case summary, construction was significantly underway when the applicant was notified that there was an error on the city's part?
They were framed, I believe, whenever the applicant was notified.
Okay, thank you.
I will also note, New Hanover County Building Code requires a minimum of 6 feet between structures, and so this would be in compliance with building code.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions for staff? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Would the applicant like to speak? Okay. I'll open the evidentiary hearing. Is there anyone here to present additional evidence that's pertinent to the case? Seeing no one, we will close the evidentiary hearing and open for board discussion. I went out there and the two homes, Lot 127 and the one next door are substantially, I mean, they're framed in. And I think the applicant acted in good faith based on the building permits that were issued by the city. And in my opinion, we need to grant this request.
I'd second that.
Make a motion that we grant the variance request for 4025 Water Sale Drive based on the four findings of fact.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Is there any other business before the Board of Adjustment today? Seeing none, I'll call the meeting adjourned.